As you no doubt know by now, the UK has voted to leave the EU. There are many, many different dimensions to what confronts the country and the rest of Europe now. For the time being, we'd like to focus on one critical issue, which is what could the impact be on the financial system? How worried should we be about the various warnings we've heard of crisis? With me now to discuss this is our US Managing Editor, Gillian Tett. Gillian, what are we facing here? Is this LTCM? Is this another Lehman Brothers? What is this?
Well, the Lehman Brothers versus LTCM divide is absolutely the right way to look at it, because LTCM, remember, was a very dramatic market crash after the hedge fund LTCM essentially closed its doors. But that crash was quickly reversed and markets came back, and there was no lasting damage to the financial system. Lehman Brothers, by contrast, was a prolonged downturn, very, very painful, and caused real damage.
Which we've not really recovered from even now in many ways, yes.
Not really recovered from. And so what we need to know in the next few days is this going to be a short, sharp shock, or are we really seeing a new reset in terms of asset values? And that could cause real pain for the financial system. Now, the good news is that since 2007 and 8, regulators have forced the banks around the world to hold much bigger buffers of capital that should, in theory, be able to absorb this kind of shock, particularly if it's LTCM. Yeah. And in fact, I was at the FDIC yesterday, and they were saying, well, actually the banks that we regulate are in much better shape. They do have reserves. They have actually prepared for many eventualities. Now,
Gillian, the one question I want to ask about that, though, have they moved that risk somewhere else? Is that now with these hedge funds who we now know have made some very unwise, premature bets that Britain was going to remain?
Well, one of the issues that's very striking is everybody I spoke to, and I'm sure everyone who spoke to you, John, was saying here in New York that it was going to be remain, and the market's gone one way. Thankfully, it seems that many hedge funds actually sat on their powder until after the vote, and not that many were actually invested. But there's going to be real pain in the next few days.
And what critically do you think we should be looking at as an indicator, and what do you think we're going to hear from central banks?
The critical issue right now is not just market level, it's the level of liquidity in the markets, and whether, frankly, some markets are trading at all. Because there's been signs even before this happened that increasingly the wheels of finance were getting gummed up. And if we see the wheels of finance getting seriously gummed up, i.e. liquidity evaporating significantly, the really big question now is, will the central banks be forced to step in and become essentially the market maker of last resort? Because if they do, that would take us on quite a new twist in terms of the development of central bank policy since 2007 and 8.
Now, I'm certainly inclined to bet that that probably is what they're going to be forced to do. I'm not at all clear in my own mind that they're going to be able to do it. Do you think they can serve that role now?
Well, one of the problems is that they have already not only used up a lot of their financial ammunition, they've used up a lot of their political ammunition. And whether the public and the politicians are going to actually tolerate central banks getting more involved is going to be very interesting. But we are really in a fascinating moment right now. We had financial Alice in Wonderland in 2008 when Lehman Brothers collapsed. We had economic Alice in Wonderland when rates went negative. Now we have political Alice in Wonderland, where essentially we have a massive populist protest, and frankly, we don't know what happens next.
On that cheerful note, Gillian, thank you very much indeed. There will obviously be lots more from our colleagues in London and Europe as the day moves on, with the broader implications for Britain and Europe. For now, I think those of us in New York probably need to get some sleep after an extremely exciting night. Again, Britain is leaving Europe. Now let's find out what the consequences are.